How do you decide what's moral and what's not moral?
How do I personally decide what's moral? Ooh. It's the old patented sigh. I had afterlife and integrity. Integrity would have been better, but afterlife would have been a weird one for us to discuss.
All right, so we're gonna open up a can of words because we haven't had anybody stop and talk to us today. So we're gonna see what happens here.
Yeah.
A can of words is just a bunch of words that seem to be hard to define, and we get to talk about it.
All right, best out of 4. What I can do is where's the whiteboard? I'll tell you all 4 of them. There we go. Let's do that one. So I had afterlife, forget the second one, and morality.
Integrity, I think, was the other one.
Integrity.
But okay, so
no, I guess we could do integrity. We got morality. Oh yeah, morality is this one.
Okay, so you got morality.
Let's do morality because let's come on at some point.
Okay. Morality.
I just feel like the others would have gone too far into woo-woo territory. So I should have left that out probably. Morality. We can remember that.
What if it had... Okay, I can always add the word woo.
Woo-woo?
Woo.
Like
woo-woo?
Woo-woo, I think. Like you could say woo, but I think it's woo-woo. Oh, that's woo-woo. You know, so-and-so with the crystals and the tarot cards. It's woo-woo.
What's wrong with woo-woo?
Nothing's wrong with woo-woo, but it puts a lot of people off, I think. I think for a lot of people, those intangibles are very uncomfortable. I was thinking about this on the drive up here. I was thinking about metta, the Buddhist concept of metta, M-E-T-T-A, I think it's spelled.
Is that loving kindness? Loving kindness?
Yeah, but it's there's this concept where you generate metta, where you just, and I do it now, where you literally just sit and focus on the feeling of love. And
generate kindness?
Yeah, you kind of generate love. You generate the sensation of love. And the idea is that by doing that, like the opposite. You could you could more easily quantify the opposite, focusing on, like with heavy metal, people listening to heavy metal and hate, rah, rah, rah. There's kind of a woo-woo, untangible. It's not untangible because you can see the effect of it, especially if someone's rocking out to heavy metal music and driving. They're going to be they're going to have a different sort of reaction to events on the road than if they were listening to, I don't know, classical music or NPR or a podcast. It's a little easier to just, okay, someone's driving like a dipshit, than if you're in that heavy metal space. But then this idea of generating metta, where, I don't have any quantifiable, I don't have any experiments or anything like that, but it just seems like it makes sense. Generate that feeling of love throughout the day, and then you're going to be, there's going to be more of that for you to experience. Certainly it would color what you're focusing on, because you're focusing on love and compassion. So it's like the coincidence, synchronicity effect, where, I'm thinking about love, so I'm seeing more examples of love. But regardless, there's more love from that, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it's just the coincidence of you picking what you're focusing on, still the result is the same. There's more love than, say, not doing that and being focused on whatever random stuff comes at you.
Love is a good can of words word.
Yeah, is that in there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
But of course I picked morality, so...
Oh yeah, that's right. Morality. You want to talk about morality?
Yeah, let's talk about morality. Well, let's define it, I guess, so...
Yeah. How would you define morality?
Yeah. I guess morality would be kind of the rules by which you decide what's right, each of us decide what's right or wrong, and maybe you could extend that to what we agree on as being right or wrong. But I would think the definition of morality would be, yeah, and maybe I should just think of what would my definition of morality be. Okay, so let me do that. My definition of morality.
It's a conclusion of right and wrong.
Morality is a conclusion of right and wrong.
You said like
it's also like a guide. I think it's your personal guidebook to what is right and wrong. So morality would be either the stories that you tell yourself that make something okay or not okay. So I think it would be the epistemology of the what's right and what's wrong. The morality would be how you got to
how you know something's right or wrong.
Yeah. I think that would be my definition.
So morality is an epistemology.
Yeah, morality is the epistemology is your epistemology of what you deem right, what you deem wrong. How does that land with you?
Yeah.
So I guess with can of words, you're not just asking questions, because I'd be curious what your definition of morality would be.
Yeah.
Or if you have one.
Yeah, I can agree to that definition. It's
okay.
It's what you use to decide what is right and what's wrong.
Yeah, the stories, the epistemology, I suppose, of how I got to this is right, this is wrong.
Is morality binary?
Like yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think morality is, there's so many shades of morality. What's morality for me? I would say even for me it's not binary, but certainly for me to the next person it's not going to be binary. What holds moral for me isn't necessarily going to hold moral for someone else. And I think, I like to think that my own morality can change. I've practiced a lot of judgment in my in my former years, and so now when I feel that judgmental piece rising, that's usually there's some morality around it, I start to ask more questions and start to think a little bit bigger and what I can, to be able to accept more and more. Because the tighter morality and the more judgment I have, then it seems like I'm just shutting myself down and shutting people out.
And the awareness of morality helps you out with that.
It helps me ask more questions, I think. Mm-hmm. Helps me be a bit more accepting of things I don't understand. Where before, if I didn't understand it, I'd lean into that fear of the unknown that I think a lot of people do, and let that rule me, and that just keeps me further away from people.
If you were to say something is moral and somebody else were to say something is not immoral,
or is immoral,
yeah, if you and someone else don't agree on what's moral,
yeah, there you go.
Is there a way to find out what is or isn't?
Yeah, because
does it matter? Does it matter to you if somebody else has an idea of what's moral than what you do?
Well, I mean, we're getting into, the instructions people use to live their life by, right? So it's
using this definition of morality. Yeah. Does it matter to you if someone else has a different idea of what is moral or immoral?
Well, I'd like to think that I'm open to, if I disagree, that I could accept it. But of course, if it affects me directly, then I think I'm going to have issue. You could go to the example of hitting me with your car while I'm riding my bike, whether that's morally okay or not.
Yeah. You're talking about the example of me driving in the bike lane?
Yeah, you driving in the bike lane, yeah.
So if I'm driving around in the bike lane and I hit you with my car on your bike, and you say that that's immoral
Mm-hmm.
for me to do that, and I say that it's not, is there a way, does it matter? Does it matter if I don't think that that's immoral?
Yeah. I mean, it matters because your behavior is, you don't care. You're going to drive where you want, and if I'm in the way, I just get hit. So that matters.
Our morality affects our behavior,
Yeah.
is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think, no, I don't think so. I know so. Morality affects people's behavior.
So, if someone else disagrees with your morality,
Mm-hmm.
what, and that affects their behavior towards you, and it affects your world.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Well, it means we got to have some discussions, I think, or stay the hell away from each other. Give each other some room. And I suppose that's more the case if there's harm involved. You know, if someone else's morality allows them to harm me or vice versa, then there's a higher need for a conversation or an understanding to be able to be met, compromise, or just space away, you know, like, okay, well, you live there, I live here.
You know that saying that says, let's just agree to disagree?
Yeah.
Would morality be a good time to use that?
That's the thing. I think in general it would be, but there's going to be the exception where I don't think we can agree to disagree that it's immoral to drive in the bike lane and not care whether you hit me or not. I think then we can't agree to disagree because one of us is going to be in the hospital, and I don't think that's going to be sustainable.
How do you decide what's moral and what's not moral?
How do I personally decide what's moral? Ooh. It's the old patented sigh. There's a fucking... you put a little subtitle up right now.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a journey, you know. I think it starts out when you're just a nipper,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just... the instructions are being beaten into you, the morality's being sort of spoon-fed to you and strong-armed into you.
Mm.
And then you get to the point of, disassociation, where you start to challenge that, and I suppose as a teenager you start to flex into, well, I want to establish my own moralities.
Mm.
I want to say what's right, what's wrong. And then you start to experiment with that and see what your results are, how those things are met, how it helps or hinders, your experience of life. So I think it's a lot of learning as you go, morality. I think there's a lot of examples you can pull from, and so there's education. I say education, I mean you can learn up on examples of morality, but then I think there's a decision to make that, well, this works for me.
What do you learn? It's something that you learn, right? You said
Learn through experience.
And read up on.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you decide? How do you decide what to read up on? How do you figure out what to accept from reading stuff about morality?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be like an intuition. You just kind of, you read something and, oh yeah, that makes sense, that resonates with me, and some stuff doesn't. That's where we get into that woo-woo stuff, right? Where it's intangible, where one person can read a thing and go, yeah, that resonates with me, that makes sense, and another person can read it and go, they have an aversion to it. So I don't know what you call that, aversion versus agreement, but I think, what would you call that? What would that be? that your compass, your moral compass? Or?
Yeah. Whenever you grow out of just taking what you've been taught as a kid to be moral, how do you decide what you want? Because you said there's this point where you decide that you want to decide what's right and wrong, right? On your own. How do you figure out from then on? You're reading up on what other people have said things are moral or not?
Yeah, and I think if you can keep an open mind, then you can learn along the way, and you can update your morals.
Is morality like a trial and error type of thing that you figure out?
Yeah, I think it does end up being, because there's certain things I think are a little bit more black and white, easier, but I think they're all open to negotiation. Because you could ask 10 people whether what's the state execution? What do you call that? The death penalty.
The death penalty?
Yeah, whether death penalty is okay or not, and you're going to get probably 10 varying moralities and answers from 0 to 10 as far as no to yes. You know? And that's like that's a moving target, and that all comes down to morality. So I think it's very pliable, very malleable, and I think some people don't think it's malleable. Some people think it's always okay. It's never okay for an abortion. It's never going to be okay for an abortion. Some people would close themselves down, but it doesn't mean that that's true. And there's a lot of varying opinions, and if you open yourself up to listening to some reasons, and then you can update where you're coming from. I think, unfortunately, morality probably feels and gets locked in more than it needs to, because I think it's a completely moving target.
You're saying it's best to be flexible about what your morals are?
I think it's best to be open to hearing different morality and people's reasons behind the morality. It might be helpful to be firm in your morals, rather than just completely wishy-washy with them. But I think even if you're firm in them, you can still be curious about other people's morality and open to the idea that maybe you update yours.
Is there anything that is right or wrong no matter what people's opinion about it is?
Yeah, I don't think that would be for me to say. I think I could certainly give you some examples of what I might think would be, but I don't know that I'm the one that gets to determine that.
Mm-hmm. You're not comfortable with saying that there's some instances where something is wrong all the time, or something is right all the time. You're basically saying morality is subjective, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it, yeah, it's hard to. I mean, when you think about the concept of war, right? Killing for the greater good, if you will, which I'm sure that's what it seems like for most of the time. You could have the morality that war is no good no matter what. Never, no more war, never, ever. I don't know how you would enforce that, but that would be a hell of a great morality to just say, war's never okay, so we're all going to agree as a species, no mas, never again. I mean, I guess maybe that'd be a pretty cool thing to be able to just agree on and set and determine, but because morality is so varied from person to person, I think you'd have to open yourself up to the people that have all the varying answers to whether war is moral or not, to to understand where they're coming from, to understand whether the war's needed or not. Because you get something like World War II, where the Allied forces and eventually the US forces and all, everything that went from the two sides of that war, and you're going to see people that were proud they served and glad they stepped in and enlisted and signed up as soon as they could, and that's like celebrated and heroic, versus something like something like what's happening in the Ukraine, where Russia's invading Ukraine, and I think most people think, well, what the fuck do you think you're up to? Mm-hmm. Who do you think you are to go invade this place that isn't yours? And be killing about it. So there's two separate viewpoints of, we're defending ourselves, war is completely appropriate, and then invading, wanting to take something that's not ours and using war for that. And I could see that you might talk to some people in Russia, and once you heard their arguments, you'd realize, they kind of have a good point. I don't know what those points would be, because I think it's... I don't think it's really helpful to be, taking lives and destroying things to increase borders. So I don't know what the point of it would be. I don't know what the morality that would get you to this is a good idea is. But I realize there probably is morality that makes that make sense. I mean, there would have to be, because he's convinced all of his troops that, what's going to be a good idea? It's going to be a good idea for us to go in and blow up buildings and resources and people in Ukraine. So apparently their morality is okay with that.
He's convinced a lot of people that what they're doing is moral.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to, right? Otherwise they just put their guns down and say, fuck yourself. Fear only goes so far. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're so terrified that Putin's going to fuck them over and come after their family that they're just on autopilot on robots. But I would think in mass, at some point you'd see, dissension in the ranks. You'd at some point see entire platoons saying, fuck this, putting their guns down, and we're not doing this. This is wrong. This is not moral for us to be coming into Ukraine. So maybe there's a manipulation element to morality, where it is malleable to where it can be manipulated. And that's why things like this, can happen, or people could drive in the bike lane, mow people down, and they should have been not on their bike, whatever, and justify it because of the morality.
What would be a good argument for morality being objective?
I mean, the improvement of the species, I would think. I think things like climate change, if we adopted the morality that, this and this habit that we're doing now, like burning coal or something like that, it's just clearly not helping the environmental situation.
Yeah. Like if somebody said morality, like things are either right or wrong outside of our perception of them being right or wrong, what would be a good argument for them to use for that?
I think something that benefits all of mankind or all of life.
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty good metric to say, okay, this benefits all of mankind, regardless of gender, racial background, sexual preference, sexual orientation, humankind, but then also to take it further to life, all life. I think if you had something that held all life, whether it's humans or animal or plant life for that matter, you know, trees and fungus and all that stuff, if it held all life in high regard, if something was beneficial for all life, that would be a pretty good starting place for things to be objectively moral or objectively immoral.
Hello.
Might have been someone.
You're talking about if everyone agreed that a certain thing was good,
Mm-hmm.
and that was beneficial for the rest of us, for all of us.
For all of life.
Yeah. I'm asking about what would be a good argument to say that objective morality, or that it's true that morality is objective. And I'm not saying that morality is objective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to pick your brain about how you would argue the opposite side.
Mm.
If somebody were to say it's true that morality is objective, that something is right or wrong,
Regardless
no matter
of
what we agree about
Yeah.
anything, or what's beneficial to us about anything, regardless of that, it's true that morality is objective. What would be the best reason to support that view? Are you able to put yourself in
Yeah.
the opposite shoes? You don't have to, but I was
Yeah.
curious.
Like, could I put myself into the shoes of someone that thinks abortion
Is
should be
wrong no
illegal?
matter what.
Is
Yeah.
wrong no matter what?
Yeah.
I mean, I could go through the exercise of putting myself in their shoes, but I don't think I would feel at all comfortable. Well, let's see. There's got to be something that I would be like, no, this never.
Yeah. Or just in general, like, everything is either right or wrong regardless of what we think about it. It doesn't have to be something specific like abortion or war or the death penalty. Just in general, everything that we do is either right or wrong regardless of our opinion about it.
Yeah, and I think you can't have that conversation without having duality. And with duality comes conflict, and so I don't think I could put myself into that, because I'm trying to open myself up to there's a lot I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think in terms of non-duality, I open up my acceptance, my patience. I reduce my judgment. So it's helpful for me to think in non-duality terms.
Meaning there is no separation between you and the rest of what's going on in the world?
Yeah, that'd be a good way to say it. Such that the person that I think their behavior is atrocious, what I'm trying to practice is, well, they must have a good reason for doing it. And it's fucking difficult to do that, but it definitely, I think, reduces my suffering and reduces my dwelling on something so much that I'm just causing myself more pain and more anguish, being focused on it, than just kind of taking the approach of, okay, well, I don't understand this, but I don't need to. That's not my life, you know. As long as I don't get hit by them on the fucking bike, it's not going to affect me.
Cool. Anything else you want to say about morality?
Yeah, I wish it was something you could put in a bucket, because I think it would be helpful. Certainly doesn't give us much, doesn't give us a whole lot to move forward with.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Do you think there are...
Yeah, you can ask me questions too if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, where do you stand with, do you think there are some things that are moral and some things that are amoral? That there's a hard moral, immoral? Where are you at with that?
I'm in the same boat as you as far as morality being a spectrum. Like, some things are more moral than others. Like, even if you were to grant that abortion is immoral, there are some things that are more immoral than that. For instance, forcing someone to remain pregnant against their will is more immoral than abortion. So even if I were to say abortion is immoral, it's on a spectrum. Some things are more immoral than others. It's not a binary thing. I wouldn't say that something is either immoral or not. I wouldn't say that something is either moral or immoral.
You'd say there's a spectrum that they fall on, and other things compare to it, higher and lower on the scale.
Right. Now, I think that morality is objective in the sense that if we have a goal, we can therefore say, yes, according to this goal, it's objective that this will get us closer to the goal or get us further from the goal. So, like, if we're playing a board game and the goal is for me to win the game, we can objectively say, this is a good move. So that's how I see morality. Like, if we have a goal, then we can say, yes, it's objective that this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do according to that goal. Yeah,
and I think I like the goal, a goal of trying to accomplish something better than a game, because like, for me, when I play games, my goal isn't always to win, it's to play the game and to interact. So.
If the goal in the game is to win the game, then we can say objectively, this is a good move, this is not a good move.
Is that morality, though? A good move versus not a good move?
Well, right or wrong. This is a right move to make if the goal is to win the game, and this is a bad move to make.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I'm equating morality with the game. But yeah, in the same way, if the goal is to reduce suffering, if we use that as a goal, then we can say morality, according to that goal, it's objective that this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do, if we have a goal in mind.
Which would be subjective to that goal.
It would be objectively true that this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do, if we have a goal in mind.
Yeah.
In another sense, you can say that morality is subjective because we, as a society, we agree what we're going to allow,
right,
and what we're not going to allow.
Right, like Russia has allowed that. Well, part of our morals are we'll invade Ukraine, and the rest of the world, I would imagine, well, most of the rest of the world, agree that no, we're not doing the invading other countries thing anymore.
Yeah. So, if we are Putin, and our goal is to expand our borders, then it's objectively true that it's moral to do what it takes to reach that goal. If we're Ukrainian and we don't share that goal, we have the goal of being an independent country, then we can say it's objectively true that it's moral to defend ourselves.
But then, in the case of the two conflicting moralities there, I mean, how do we begin to to discuss and then come to a new agreement. Because we can't just agree to disagree.
Yeah, exactly. We would need to agree on a goal. If Ukraine and Russia agreed that reducing suffering is the goal that we want to share, then we'll know objectively if it's right or wrong to do something with that goal in mind. So if we have common goals, then we can share what we think morality is, what's moral and what's immoral.
So a definition of goals really is a starting point.
Yeah, or coming to an agreement about what the goal should be.
Yeah, that makes sense. So morality is really goals are quite integral to morality.
The way I see it, yeah.
Yeah, the way
You have to have a goal. Once you have a goal, then you can decide what's moral.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that.
And some things are more moral than other things.
Right.
Like,
depending on the goal.
Yeah, you can say that having an abortion and forcing someone to remain pregnant against their will, you can say that both of those things are immoral.
Right.
You don't have to necessarily choose one or the other.
You just have to choose which one's more moral.
Right.
Yeah, this is a great tool, man, the can of words.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of different shit.
Uh-huh.
And, that's what's the funny thing, too, is this is one word.
Yeah. And that was 39 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and in a conversation, morality is one of 25 words that we're using to make our declaration, and each one of them probably needs this much definition.
It affects our behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's great, though, that now we have a better understanding of what each other's definition of morality is, where there's congruency and not.
Yeah.
And then to be able to, have more conversations, knowing our definitions. Yeah, I like this tool. This is a bloody good one.
Mm-hmm.
And probably a pretty low stakes for people to get defensive. I don't know. I didn't feel defensive. I felt like we were just exploring what do each other mean by this.
Yeah.
It was obviously you were in the role of being curious about me, but in this case, I was curious about you as well, about your opinion on it as well.
Yeah, we weren't telling each other that they were wrong.
Right. It's just tell me more about what you think of this.